Kia ora, hello, Paul Brennan, bring our birds home. It is late afternoon, Friday, April 28th. The light is fading and the wind is howling here in Wellington. It must be gusting around 40-50 knots at the moment. Anyway, it's been a week, hasn't it? A roller coaster ride. Crikey is the word I'd use. Ups and downs. Let's start with the positive stuff. Things are looking good for the DC-8. We're talking with the Cuban embassy about the DC-10 in Havana, Cuba, so that's good. We know that exists, by the way, 100%. We have photographic evidence from less than a month ago, and I'm going to do everything I can to try and get that airframe back, believe it. Also, we know that TEB, the Electra, is safe and well in Alberta, Canada, with Buffalo Airways, and we're talking with them, so that's all good. The crikey part of the week, the slightly despairing part of the week, finding out the fate of the 747ZK NZV, the 747-219, or the 19 part of that being the Boeing customer designation code for New Zealand, originally given to the 737's NAC order back in '68, transferred to Air New Zealand planes later. I'll talk about the 737 in just a moment. But we found out that NZV, the 74219, was scrapped at Domodedovo Airport in Moscow in 2015. Sort of had an idea that could be a possibility, so I was sort of ready for that, and disappointing to hear that the other 74219s have also been scrapped at an airport in upstate New York called Rome Griffiths. So they've all gone. History now, just photos and film left and our memories. But I was pretty rocked, I got to say, by NAD, finding out that it had been crushed, was the word that was used, 7 months ago in North Carolina, USA. It took us ages to get hold of the company that was storing that airframe since the 90s at the boneyard of this airport in North Carolina, and I got through finally and was told pretty well immediately we crushed it 7 months ago. And that's really sad, because that was a very historic aircraft. It flew the first domestic commercial jet service in our country's history. It was part of that original NAC order delivered in '68, the second one delivered. We all know that. So very historic, and sad that it's not around anymore. It would have been fantastic to get hold of NAD, but it wasn't to be, and it wasn't through anything we did. We didn't sit around doing nothing, twiddling our thumbs, procrastinating, letting it happen, which would have been unforgivable. These aircraft were lost before we came along and started the campaign. So, as I said in the update yesterday, it is what it is. All right, so where does it take us? On the 747 front, we're now looking at 747-419s. There were 5 of them: NBS, NBT, NBU, the Rolls-Royce powered examples, NBV and NBW GE powered. NBS went to the desert in '09 and no longer exists, we know that for sure. NBT, the most recent picture I have of NBT is on the screen here, not looking too good, the back end missing. This is from 2015, parked outside the Aero Turbine parts facility, parts reclamation facility at Goodyear Air Park in Arizona. So 2 years on, who knows, we're trying to find out, but I have a sinking feeling about that. And NBU, most recent picture we have is also from Goodyear 2013, so 4 years and a bit have gone by. Again, I get that sinking feeling. What I've done is I've emailed Aero Turbine in Arizona asking them to tell me the status of the airframes NBT and NBU. They might come back and say, yeah, well, it's still, you know, sitting there without the tail or whatever, and that would be okay. We could work with something like this. But I've got a feeling that it might be worse than that, so we'll find out. I've got a phone number. If the email doesn't come through, I'll call them. And as soon as I know, you'll know. That leaves NBV and NBW. Good news is they're both in service, still operating. NBV is flying with Wamos Airline. I think that's how you say it. They're a Spanish charter airline, I think. Still in passenger configuration. And NBW was converted to a freighter, I think in Israel, and now operates for Asiana Airlines of Korea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make contact with the management of Wamos Airlines in Spain, tell them about our campaign, try and find out who owns that aircraft. It might be them, it could be a lease company, who knows, and understand their plans for it. I can't see it operating for more than 3, 4, 5 years, given the age of the aircraft and the market conditions. Who knows? But I want to be in a queue with the hand up for the airframe if and when it becomes available at the time of retirement. We'll see. And I'm going to take some advice on how to approach Asiana Airlines in Seoul, Korea, with the same sort of story. Even though it's been converted to a freighter, those window plugs can come back out and we can, put it back to how it used to look. So there's still hope for 747. It's bold, it's audacious, wanting to try and claim something this big, but these are artifacts of New Zealand. They are the real McCoy. 419 means it's an original Kiwi machine. Of course, there was SUH and SUI 400s in the Air New Zealand fleet, but they weren't 419s. They were made for other airlines. I think we bought them or took them up because those other airlines wouldn't. They are not 419s, so I guess they're not totally authentic. So there's some hope there. Now on the 737 front, the little engine that could, ZK-NQC, is alive and well in Canada at a place called Trois-Rivières in Quebec, Canada. We know it's there. We know it's airworthy still, apparently. We know who owns it. I've already started talking with them. It's probably the hardest working 737 in New Zealand history. It's a 219. I think there's only one other 219 around at a museum in South Africa, someone told me, maybe former NAX or NAV. But NQC was delivered in 82. By day it was a passenger plane. By night, with that big cargo door on the cargo floor, they slid out the passenger seat pallets and it flew cargo overnight. I used to hear it flying overhead Wellington, north to south and then back from Christchurch to Auckland. Apparently in the busy times during the year, depending on loads, they'd make 2 flights in the night. So that was the hardest working 737 for over 30 years in New Zealand. That's still around. If we don't have NAD, at least we've got NQC. So that's good news. We're talking to them already. I'm hoping the final flight NQC can make is back to New Zealand, back home. So watch that space. Disappointing about NAD, but NQC's not bad, I'm telling you. So the crowdfunding campaign is open now. The page is up and running on the Give a Little platform. Go to givealittle.co.nz/cause/bring our birds home. We still need to get around those locations. We still need to go to Manaus, Brazil, and meet the Infraero people, the people who own the airport there, who have the DC-8. We need to go to Havana, Cuba, and meet the airport people there about the DC-10. We need to go to Trois-Rivières, Quebec, and talk to the folk about NQC. We need to go to Alberta, Canada, and meet Bruce and his people at Buffalo Airways and talk about the Electra. And we probably now need to go to Spain or maybe even Korea to talk about those 2 747s. So the need is still there. We need to create those relationships, set up the conditions to ultimately bring our birds home. So please, if you feel inclined, make a donation. Doesn't matter how big or small. The bigger the better, but whatever will be appreciated at that Give a Little page. And look out for our media coverage this weekend. Very well timed for the fundraising month of May. And that's at the Sunday Star Times. We've got a feature there. Thank you to Jack Barlow for doing that. And thank you to Denise Montgomery, who is the producer of the Sunday morning show, Wallace Chapman at RNZ. Wallace will be interviewing me on Sunday morning. Not too sure exactly of the time, but about the Bring Our Birds Home campaign. Can't wait to talk about that, and also the history behind the aircraft that we're trying to claim, and the things that we can do with these airframes into the future, and what it means for future generations, and how they appreciate and understand the history that has been created in aviation, and specifically with these types in service for our country. Have a great weekend. Talk to you again soon. Check out that Give a Little page, and make sure you catch either the Sunday Star Times or RNZ this coming weekend. Thanks.